Y'all having a good day? It is really great to get to come to church, to get to come to work and go to church, and that's just so cool. I just love that our worship team comes in, just pours it out, and our tech crew gets here, volunteers, staff members, everybody just pours out their hearts, and so that's so cool. I want to teach you something today. I feel like that I have such a great honor to talk to such amazing potential and such amazing ministry that it's important that I have something to say when I'm up here in front of you guys. And so it's going to be compact, and it's going to be really good. And I've got to do one more thing that I forgot. I'm sorry about that. But Jason, under the back seat of my car is a golf club, and that's going to be integral in what I'm going to share today. I'm going to show Kip some tips on his swing that he's been needing to work on for a long time. I'm passing out some handouts to you right now, everybody, some handouts. And, I heard about a pastor one time that loved to hand out his sermon notes, and nobody seemed to take them. And then one Sunday, they were all gone. And this lady came up and said, "Hey, do you have any more sermon notes?" And he was so excited. He said, "I'll print you some more." And he said, can you tell me what you appreciate about these sermon notes the most? And she said, "Well, I have a bird, and the bird cage fits perfectly. The bottom of the bird cage, your notes are just perfect for that." And so I hope that these are just as helpful for you today. I'm talking about teamwork today. My best teamwork story comes from a great Christian country comic named Jerry Clower. Does anybody remember Jerry Clower, the late, great Jerry Clower? So he told a story one time about the little country town where they're from. Turn this down just a little bit, guys. Maybe the mic just a little hot in case I start screaming. This little country town, a little higher. It's tough being a control freak. I'm sorry, I just am. Just right, thank you. And so there was a fire, and they were doing a bucket brigade from the stream into the middle of the town, and just tossing water on the fire to get it out. This is a long time ago, before fire trucks and all this kind of stuff. And so into town comes the Ledbetter family. And if you ever remember that story, it was Uncle Versey and Aunt Pat, Ardell, Burnell, Raynell, W.L., Linnell, Odell, Mossell, Claude, Eugene, and Clovis. You all remember that? So all those people were riding in the truck. The truck runs right up into the middle of the town and into the fire. The family comes flying off the back of the truck, grabbing shoes and clothes and shirts, and they beat the fire out. The whole town cheers, erupts. They can't believe it. They pass a hat to take up a celebration donation to the Ledbetter family. They hand it to Uncle Versey, the patriarch of the family, and say, "We're so excited. Thank you. What are you going to do with all this money?" And he said, "The first thing I'm going to do is get the brakes on that truck fixed." Ow! You got to do it like him to make it funny. Anyways, teamwork. So I'm going to give you 3 things that you have to have a great team. Thank you, Jason. 3 really important things. Actually, I can't hit this one. If you got to, just kidding. 3 things that are absolutely necessary to have a great team. The first one, and I want you to do this for me. You got notes. You got something to write on. I want you to write these down. And I want you to think about a response. When we get done here today, I want you to tell me something that this spoke to you, maybe something that you can change or something that you've learned and you're doing. So I want everybody to pay real close attention because I'm going to call on you. And I really want the guys up in the tech booth. I don't know if we had enough papers for somebody to hand it to you guys, but listen up real close because we want to build great teams all the way around our organization. So the first thing is enthusiasm. Just write that in, enthusiasm. Charles Schwab said people can succeed at almost anything for which they have enthusiasm. So I've got a lot of blanks for you guys to fill in, and I'm gonna go real quick, so pay close attention. You need to take responsibility. Great leaders take responsibility for their own enthusiasm. They don't wait on someone else to pump them up. Successful people realize that attitude is their choice. I can run hot or cold however I want to. I can get up and I can have everything go wrong. I can have, you tell you, some crazy stuff happened this weekend at Daystar in the 8:30 service, and I decided to be enthused anyways, all right? Now, after the 8:30 service was over, I decided to yell at people. But during the 8:30 service, I decided to be enthused, and so, the countdown timer didn't work or whatever, and I didn't know what the countdown time was. The microphone broke down in the middle of the message, and that was all jacked up. And then on top of that, I had woken up really, really tired, and I never drink sodas, like hardly ever, but I drank a 20-ounce Diet Coke, so I had to pee so bad the whole time during the 8:30 service, because I always start with a couple, like 2 cups of coffee, then a 20-ounce soda, and then I had a rock in my shoe at the same time. So all that was going wrong. But I made up my mind, I'm going to be enthusiastic no matter what, all right? See, enthusiastic people make a choice. They don't get positive because everything went well for them. They choose to. Secondly, successful people, they act their way into a feeling. Act your way into a feeling. Successful people don't feel their way into an action. They act their way into a feeling. Now, it's really important that you get the distinction, because most people, here's the beautiful thing about disciplining yourself. If you will make up your mind, I'm going to do this kind of stuff, you get to be at the top. And I'm telling you, it's a lot more fun being at the top than it is being at the bottom. I've been at the bottom, the top, and everywhere in the middle, and it's way more fun to be at the top. And all you have to do is decide, I'm not going to do like everybody else. Everybody else, however I feel, is how I behave. Successful people don't do that. People say, I behave a certain way. Successful people behave a certain way, and then their feeling follows their behavior. If you let your behavior follow your feelings, it'll ruin every relationship in your life, and you'll never be successful. Your marriage will be defeated if you just act the way you feel. But if you'll decide, I'm going to act the way I should act, then the feelings, not immediately, but over time, will follow you. I served with a great music pastor many years ago at a church in Mobile called Pathway, and I was like beginning my ministry as he was ending his. It was Joe McDuffie, and Joe used to always say, it was like his catchphrase, you got to fake it till you make it. You don't feel like a Christian, you act like a Christian. You don't feel like you're married, you act like you're married. You don't feel like you're in love, you act like you're in love. You don't feel like doing ministry, act like you're so pumped about doing ministry. That's what great leaders and team members do. They act their way into a feeling. The third thing is they believe in what they do. So how do I manufacture enthusiasm when I don't feel it? Believe in what you do. Truth of the matter is, if you don't believe in what you do, you need to do something else. You need to remind yourself. Think of all the positive aspects of what you do. Think about why we do what we do. That's why for me, it's so valuable and so important if you're on the team to counsel people if you can. You don't have to have a counseling degree. All right, I took counseling classes, and honestly, I don't know that I'm doing anything they say to do when I counsel people. You need to listen to people, tell them what the Bible says about what they're talking about. That's counseling, okay? Right now, like a real counselor that's watching this just went crazy screaming at whatever. But that's what works for me. Listen to what they have to say, pray for them, and tell them what the Bible has to say about what they're going through. And here's why that's going to help a lot of people, because they don't know the Bible as well as you do, and they're not rationally thinking through, even if they do. But it's going to help you to remember why we do what we do. Because you guys are what my friend Richard Chancey calls professional Christians. You're professional Christians. You do this for a living, right? That's not like most people. And it's kind of messing you up. Almost all of you, a very few of us went into ministry and that was our first job, but almost every one of you came from another workforce, and sometimes you forget what regular folks are going through. And so getting connected with regular folks through small groups, through counseling environments, just helping your neighbor, really reminds you why we do what we do, and that will motivate you. All right, here's the fourth thing you do. You spend time with other enthusiastic people, because enthusiasm is contagious. It's difficult to remain neutral or indifferent in the presence of a positive thinker. So you need to be around those kind of people, and you need to be that kind of person. And if you become that kind of person and you stick out in the crowd, you probably need to get in a different crowd. You need to be around people who are enthusiastic, and you rise with them. Bill Gates says, what I do best is share my enthusiasm. Now, to improve your enthusiasm, number one, you show a sense of urgency. Set goals. Now, if all your goals are like 5 years out or 1 year out, you need to set some micro goals. What's the reason for me to be enthusiastic today? What did I want to see happen this day? Right now, I'm excited and enthused because I know that I have some of the most intelligent and gifted young minds in all of Christianity sitting right in front of me. And today, I'm enthusiastic about teaching you how to manufacture enthusiasm, all right? It's easy for me to get enthusiastic today because I have right now, today, 30-minute goal. 30 minutes from now, I want you to know some things about being a better team member than you did before. You need to create your own sense of urgency. What do I need to have done today? Next, you need to be willing to do more. Set the bar high with yourself and with the rest of your team. Give yourself some personal deadlines. Don't wait for someone to ask you to do it. Go the extra mile. Let me tell you what has served me so well. What has served me is saying yes to whatever it was. When I was first starting out in ministry, I was just like, whatever. I met a guy named Randy Smith. Now, I went to such a tiny church, we never had a youth pastor. I had heard about a youth pastor, but I'd never even met one. When I met Randy Smith, I wanted to be in full-time ministry. I was a teenager, and he said, man, we'd like to have a youth pastor on staff at our church. I said, I'm a youth pastor. I'm your man. Where are you at? What I need to do to get there? I was the first youth pastor I ever met, okay? But I was enthusiastic, and I was willing to do whatever I had to do. And you know what? I still do that, y'all. It's in different ways. It's in different places. It's civic, community ways. It's in open doors that are in different places. But it's still setting a bar that I want to do more. I want to accomplish more. The next thing is you strive for excellence. You strive for personal. Does it meet my standard? It's not that did any oversight in my life say you should have done this better. And that's not really the standard. The standard does it meet my standard? So strive for personal excellence. Elbert Hubbard says the best preparation for good work tomorrow is good work today. All right? So here's the second, about building a great winning team. The second big category is competence. Competence, doing it well. Howard Newton said, people forget how fast you did a job, but they will remember how well you did it. That's one of those little quotes that rings around in my head. Because I really like to do things fast and tell you how fast I did them. Like, I really like that. Like, I know how fast I can get home to my hometown and my fast record-breaking time, all that stuff. But did I do it well? So here's a few things highly competent people do. Number one, they're committed to excellence. Now, success and excellence are two different things, and John Johnson said it really well in this quote. He says, success bases our worth on a comparison with others. But excellence gauges our value by measuring us against our own potential. Success grants its rewards to the few, but it's the dream of the multitudes. Excellence is available to all living beings, but is accepted by the few. Isn't that crazy? In other words, excellence is a higher bar than success. I think that's important to realize. Success is random, it's arbitrary. You really don't know what was successful and what wasn't successful on this side of eternity. But excellence is you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, did I do it the best I possibly could? I try to teach my kids that all the time. I tell them, I don't want you to be employees. I want you to be owners. I want you to think like an owner. We're recently building a retaining wall at our house on the lake, and there's close to 400 feet of shoreline. And when the lake goes down, it's completely exposed, and every time it washes away a little bit. So when the lake goes really far down, there's like 1 million rocks about this size. And if you'll move all those rocks up against that shoreline, which drops off probably 4 or 5 feet, then you've got a free, really pretty shoreline. Those really pretty rocks, not that riprap stuff that I don't like, but it's but you got to bend over, pick it up, move it, bend over and drop it, bend over about 1,000 times to get 1,000 rocks up against. So guess what our project was this year? Man, we built our own wall. And every time I'd get those kids out there, they're like, how long do we have to do this? And I said, that's the wrong question. You're thinking like an employee. You don't want them to ask how long we have to do this. We need to think, how fast can we get this done? Because an owner wants to get it done well and get it done fast so they can move on to something else. Excellence is the same way. You're not thinking about, did I get this? Does my boss, is he satisfied? Did she say this? Did I do what she said I needed it? That's not what we need to be thinking about. You need to take ownership of your future. Don't consider yourself in a slot in an org chart. Take ownership of your future, and you determine where you go in the organization. Now, the thing about this church organization is, if you've been here very long, you know that slots move around and opportunities open up. And you get to determine how much opportunity you personally have, not based on employee reviews and evaluations only, but based on you setting your own standards. So here's the second thing that highly competent people do. They never settle for average. Mediocre is not in their vocabulary. Competent people never do the job halfway, even if they're only expected to do it halfway. Thirdly, they pay attention to detail. Details matter. I recently told an employee, the job is the details. That really is. The details really matter. Dale Carnegie says, don't be afraid to give your best to what seemingly are small jobs. Every time you conquer one, it makes you that much stronger. If you do little jobs well, the big ones tend to take care of themselves. And isn't that what the Scripture says? If you do well with small things, you'll be rewarded in larger things. So we want to pay attention to details. We want to care about that. Here's number 4. They perform with consistency. So is 99.9% good enough? Well, banks get their transactions right about 99% of the time. But 22,000 checks will be deducted from the wrong bank accounts while I'm giving this talk today. So it wasn't right for the person who got the wrong amount taken out of their bank, right? So consistency really matters. 12 babies will be given to the wrong mom today somewhere in a hospital in America. Today, 12 babies. So it's pretty important that that was right. And what you do is at least as important as money or physical earthly things, because everything on this earth is physical and temporary. So we want to do it really well. Now, I don't say this about doing it well. There comes a point when, 100%, I don't mean 100% effort or 100% commitment. We always want that. But 100% completion sometimes is wasted space. Here's what I mean by that. I live by the 80% rule. If I can get something up to 80%, that's probably 50% of my effort to get it up to 80%. Now, the last 20% is really not even noticeable to most people. Only people who know what I do and are competent in what I do. They notice the last 20%. Some of you know what you're doing. You're excellent in certain areas. You know what it's like to get it up to a really, really good thing. And that last 20%, you're like, dude, that was awesome. And somebody else doesn't even notice it. Watch a movie with Tom and Deborah. And they're like, dude, did you notice that? You're like, nope, I didn't even see that. That's that last 20% because they're into that. They're like movie nerds, all right? So they're into that stuff. So that last 20% is something not everybody else notices. Here's my point in that. We have so much to accomplish. And please don't hear me say, just do the bare minimum. This is a nuance that I'm teaching you. If you don't pay attention, you didn't get it, all right? Give 100%. Do it with excellence. Strive for making it just right. Give a perfect effort. But sometimes, almost all the times, you can create 80% of a project. It's 100% done, but it's 80% as well as you can do it. And it took you 50% of the effort. And instead of going that last 20% with 50% more of your effort, you could go do 1 or 2 more tasks really, really well. This doesn't even apply to everybody, but some of you that are perfectionists, you want it just right all the time, you need to back away and look at the big picture. And say, for instance, here's a video that we could do. We're doing At the Movies videos right now, and you could spend forever getting little nuances, little things here or there, or you could do all the At the Movies videos and then work on a testimony video that's going to make somebody cry. All right, you see what I'm saying? So we want the work done really, really well, but at the same time, we want to spend our time really well. So to improve your competence, a few things you need to do. You need to sweat the small stuff. Little things matter. When I'm on a treadmill, I do these bursts. I'll run for a while, and then I'll burst like a 1-minute sprint, and then I'll chill back to a normal pace and then sprint again, something like that. I watch that last minute, and when I get to those last 10 seconds of that minute of sprint, I go crazy, insane. That last few seconds really matters. So you need to, in the same way, you need to finish every task strong. You get to the end of it, finish it strong. Second thing you do to improve your competence is give more attention to implementation. It's one thing to have an idea or to put it on a checklist, but make sure you implement it. You ought to have, in my phone, I've got lists of things that need to be done. I routinely go over those, and I make sure they are checked off. I use Evernote, and Evernote lets you put little check boxes, and you can click it when you've checked it, when you've done it, and it just feels amazing to put a check. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You checked it off. So you want to do that. Here's the last thing. Great teams have, number 3 in the notes, tenacious intensity. Tenacious intensity. When God called me into the ministry, I determined to be the best pastor in America. In fact, that's still my goal. Although I'm very, very far from it, I'm sure. My first challenge I had to overcome was a financial one. Because when you get started, it's little churches or small starter positions, And the staff could only afford to pay me $100 a week, and probably they were overpaying me on some weeks. To top it all off, I was still in school. My wife, Leslie, she was still in school. She was driving 2.5 hours one way to get to school 4 days a week. I was driving 3 hours one way to get to school. And so Leslie worked, and we both worked multiple jobs. She worked in an appliance store by day, and she painted these little figurines at night. We'd just sit around watching TV, painting these little things, turn them back in, and we'd get, it was like slave labor. I mean, it was terrible. I got another $25 a week when the cleaning lady at our church died. I was really praying for her to be healed, but I wanted that extra job. So when she passed away, I became the cleaning lady, got a little bit extra money, taught some band lessons on the side, did some private lessons. I remember, being asked, could you give lessons in trumpet? I didn't have a trumpet, didn't really know how to play it, but I told them yes, and bought a trumpet and taught them how to play trumpet lessons. And, you have to have an intensity if you want to get what you want. You can't sit around and wait somebody to put it together for you. That's a real problem. It's really natural to go, well, it's just, they ought to do something different. Every day of your life, you can talk about what they should do. Every day of your life, they should do. I was talking to pastors this week. I was on an interview call with a pastor, and really felt it was a blog thing, a leadership blog, and started talking about some of the things we do, and I could hear him talking about reasons why that wouldn't work where he was, and why that wouldn't work there, and he didn't have this, or he didn't have. I said, the truth of the matter is, what really put me over the top is when I realized that my biggest problem and my biggest solution was right in front of me every day. It's the guy I looked at when I brushed my teeth in the morning. Every day, that's the deal. If I talk about, the town's not big enough for me to build a great church. Well, I can't. How do you make the town any bigger? I can't do that. If I talk about my team's not good enough, or I talk about, I don't have enough money in the car, I can't really affect that stuff very well. But if I look up and say, the dude that's holding us back is that dude looking at me when I brush my teeth, then I can work on that guy. But if I'm always, they don't do this, if the budget did that, if my oversight let me do this, if the pastor would do that, you're going nowhere when you're talking about that kind of stuff. You can't control those people. You don't know the vision they have. You don't know the view that they have. You don't know what they know. You know what you know. And you know how to make yourself better. And the only way to get better is to be intense about your personal development. Dave Ramsey calls it gazelle intensity. I love that analogy, gazelle intensity. Think of a gazelle going across the African Sahara being chased by a lion. Are these like, well, they said I was supposed to run if a lion came. I'm running just fast enough to run. That's not what the gazelle's doing. He's like getting after it, because if he doesn't, he's going to die. That's the way we need to present ourselves in the calling God has for us. So working with intensity means, number one, giving all you have all the time, but not more than you have. This might surprise some of you. If you give your all consistently, that will be enough. You don't have to redline it all the time. You don't have to work 80 hours a week all the time. You don't have to be a miracle worker. You just have to be consistent all the time. And see, once you learn to work with 100% intensity, you can still increase your output by becoming a better leader. And that's what I'm talking about. I talked about an illustration where I went into ministry, had to figure out how to do it financially, and I was very intense on that end. I was also very intense in how I was working. And you might say, well, okay, so you learned to be a hard, intense, go-all-in worker. How do you improve over the next 20 years of ministry if you're already at 100%? It comes down to leadership and technique, and it's kind of like a golf swing. Golfers like me have tons of wasted motion. Tons of wasted motion. You take this as a 7-iron, and you watch a real golfer on TV swing this thing. Like if I really connect well with a 7-iron, it's maybe 160, 165-yard shot. Real golfers can hit this thing 190 or more. And when they swing, it looks, I don't look like they look, but just for illustration, it kind of looks like that. And you're like, that was a warm-up swing, and the ball went 190 yards. When I swing, I'm like, I'm just going nuts, and it didn't go near, and I'm bigger than them, and it didn't go nearly as far as they go. The women hit it farther than I do. It's wasted motion. A really good golfer, like he's tight, and she's got it just right. There is a turn that's just like it's supposed to be, and it's just compact, and it's no wasted motion. That's what a real leader looks like in his life. He's not floundering around. She's not just swinging and flailing around. I mean, she's thinking about her future. She's got goals. She's got plans. She's working, and there's no wasted motion. And someone who really, really does their job well, there are always people on the outside going, crap, they don't even try. That's what it looks like when a great golfer swings the club. It's like, he's not even trying. And see, when you don't have all this wasted motion, you've thought, you've prayed about it, you've learned, you've gotten through some of the struggles, and you've learned how to increase your ability, you're not wasting the motion, and you're actually, with the same amount of intensity and the same amount of effort, you're producing orders of magnitude more results. That's the beautiful thing about growing in Christ, growing in your abilities, is you always can do more. Here's the second thing they do. They're working with determination, not waiting on destiny. That's a good one for us because we believe that God has a destiny for us. But tenacious people don't rely on luck or fate or destiny. There will be complications and roadblocks. There'll be problems. But successful people didn't get there because of fate. They worked their way there, and so can you. Somebody say amen. Third thing is quitting when the job is done, not when you're tired. I love this. 3 great quotes from 3 people that history will remember forever. Robert Strauss said, success is like wrestling a gorilla. You don't quit when you're tired, you quit when the gorilla is tired. Don't you love that? That is so good. An equally famous person said, greatness will meet no one halfway. If you want it, you have to go the entire journey. You don't wait on it to come to you. You don't, well, if the system was better, I could achieve. No, you just go get it. You overcome whatever's in the way. You go past every roadblock, every person that's in your way. You find a way to get there. And I love this little analogy. I've been saying this for years from A.L. Williams. You beat 50% of the people in America by working hard. You beat another 40%, now you're up to 90%, by being a person of honesty and integrity and standing for something. The last 10% is a dogfight in the free enterprise system. That last 10% is how gifted am I? Who's my daddy? Who's my mama? What are my opportunities that were just given to me? What kind of luck do I have? That's really only 10. We think about that all the time. Well, that dude, of course he succeeded. Look, he was lucky. Of course she had that opportunity. Look, it just fell in her lap. That's 10% of it. 90% of it is you just be a person of honesty and integrity, willing to stand for something and work hard. You're going to pass 90% of the people just by doing that. So I'm closing with this. To be tenacious, you need to work harder and you need to work smarter. Some of you, but not all, should put in an additional 60 to 90 minutes every day. It will change your world. Just work 60 minutes more every day. Work on your personal growth. Get up earlier and run through emails. Or just be a little harder working. Be a little more tenacious. Put an extra 60 to 90 minutes in every day. It's not going to change your day a whole lot. You move something out, some goofing off something or TV or surfing the internet. Something that you take out and put in 60 to 90 more minutes of work, it will change your whole world. That's what a lot of people need to do. The second thing is you need to do is stand for something. Remind yourself why you're doing this. What is the why of this organization? Serve that purpose every day with integrity. If you don't know why we're doing what we're doing, then you're not going to have energy and flow. And sometimes you got to back away from it. Sometimes you got to stop. You got to look at some places and remember what's happening here and remember the why of this organization. Remember the stories of people, and that'll motivate you.